Welcome back to Dolor Factor Live. We're discussing diabetes and we have someone new on the set. We have Azelia Glace. She's a nutritionist, among other things. I know she knows a lot about health and healthcare, and we're going to be talking to her very soon. But thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here tonight.
Good. We have a lot of questions on nutrition, so I'm hoping that, I'm sure you can answer those questions. And can I just say, viewers, I'm very disappointed because we have had lots of responses from David Hippolyte's questions about diabetes, and no one has got them right yet. I'm disappointed, but at the same time, it's very worrying that when you think people know about diabetes, they just don't. So other people who haven't tried yet, if you think you know the answers, try and get them. No one has got all three correct right. Now, we said earlier that we were going to talk about diabetes, and yes, we are going to do that. But I think it's very important that we show you what diabetes can do. Now, those people who are very insensitive and don't like to see pictures that perhaps might upset them, this is a time for you to perhaps look away now. Don't go away, because we want you to hear some of the explanations, all right? So if you want to turn away now, I will let you know when you can actually look back, or you'll sense when you can look back, all right? So as we talk in this segment, we are going to be showing you some pictures. So perhaps if we can start with one or two pictures on the screen, when we can, perhaps, Doctor, you can tell us, what is this, please?
So this person has a diabetic foot with, I can see two diabetic foot ulcers, one very deep one below the tarsal bone there, metatarsal bone. So for anybody who's diabetic, if you're developing these ulcers, it means you most likely have problems with the tiny vessels, tiny blood vessels, and you most likely have problems with the tiny nerves.
Okay.
It means these people, some of them are not feeling. So this person who has this ulcer below the what region that we call metatarsal head region there, is probably not even feeling that they're stepping on this ulcer, because they've lost sensation in that region. And for the front here, that ulcer there would most likely be because of poor circulation as well. So, you know, microvascular issues and neuropathy are the two main issues which end up causing people to have diabetic foot problems.
So people, if they start like that, they're not corns. You go and see about them. Let's have the next picture, please. What's that, Doctor?
All right, so just imagine if the tissue to the toe stops receiving the blood supply that it needs. All tissues need blood because blood has nutrients and oxygen. So what we're seeing here is an area which is becoming dark and gangrenous. That gangrenous tissue is because that tissue is not receiving blood flow, and it's very likely that person is going to end up being amputated. Okay, so that
but the question is, why do people have something like that and keep it for so long without doing something about it? What's the answer?
I think partly is because they keep hoping that it will heal on its own. They probably try a lot of home remedies and they fail. But some people too are fearful, because if you see your toe looking like, okay, this might end up being amputated, you may be fearful of even going to the doctor in the first place. Now, here is where again we'd like to reassure people that the earlier a problem is presented to us, the more we can do. Okay. So, for example, the images we saw before, you would have wanted to see your doctor way before those images. Before this one, this is very late. From any lesion that you see on your feet, which is not healing spontaneously, you want to see a doctor and get treated to make sure that it heals quickly, especially if you're diabetic.
Okay, I'm not going to let our viewers see any more of these pictures, because there are even some more pictures. Okay, although we have this one, this lady here, it seems that she's recovering from the diabetes. So if you want to maybe quickly throw a little more, one or two pictures for us, so we can see. Again, that's an advanced state, Doctor?
That's an advanced state, again, of gangrenous tissue here. But the image before is not a very relevant image, because that's an image you'd have seen the machine. It's a hemodialysis machine.
Here we are, yes.
Okay, so that hemodialysis machine is again reminding us of one of the major complications of diabetes mellitus, which is kidney failure, chronic kidney failure. Okay, and the same thing applies, you know. It's essentially that the tissue of the kidneys stop receiving the blood supply that they should, and they start dying, and starts dying off slowly. And again, maybe asymptomatic. Somebody would be losing their kidney function, having tissue death of the kidneys without even knowing it, and end up ultimately, if they're not careful at all, end up ultimately on hemodialysis.
Okay, so those people who were looking away, you can now return. We are back in the studio. We're not going to be showing any more pictures. Now, we saw the effects externally. We listened to the effects internally. Part of the prevention is education, and the large part of the education is also our lifestyle and how we eat. So Azelia, tell us, what is your role as a nutrition, and how can we prevent diabetes through our nutrition?
Dietitian's role, because I'm also a dietitian, I'm a registered dietitian, and I'm also licensed in the US as well. The dietitian's role is to basically educate individuals not only on diet but on exercise, and a lot of it has to do with portion control. In St Lucia, we have a significant portion distortion. People have heard me say that
portion
before.
Distortion. That's
portion
a good,
distortion.
Yeah, that's
no,
a very good term.
Because we don't. Our concepts of food sizes and serving sizes are way off, and I've seen that with a lot of people. And so that's one of the biggest factors that contribute to diabetes, because we overeat, and then that can contribute to obesity, and obesity is a significant risk factor for diabetes. So the nutritionist role is to basically educate individuals as to what the right serving sizes are for them, and it also depends on their stage in life in terms of are they at a stage where they need to lose weight, maintain weight, some people need to gain weight. So there's a lot of factors that play into it, but ultimately people really need to be aware of the portions that they eat from each of the different food groups.
Okay, and we'll talk about the foods. I know you want to say something, Doctor, but I'm just going to say to our viewers, we're going to open the telephone lines very, very quickly. So if there's something really important that you want to ask, please try and ask it now, because we're not going to keep them open too long, because we're just inundated over here, and I'm trying to ask some of the questions that you've asked us. Doctor, you wanted to respond?
Yes, I wanted to add here something which is somewhat cultural that we need to be careful of. That we've gotten into this assumption that if somebody's losing weight, that they're sick. And we've gotten into the assumption as well that if somebody's gained weight, then they're doing well. So the big belly and puffy face is, you know, the puffy cheeks, your grandmother asking you, oh, but where are your puffy cheeks? Your face getting hard. You know, the puffy cheeks and big belly is actually, in some cases, a sign that we might look at as being a telltale of what's going on inside. Because abdominal obesity is actually one of those factors, risk factors, for elevated blood sugars. So, you know, it's not strange that Miss Glace here is flat tummy. She would have done her research, and she would know that one of the best ways to avert becoming diabetic is by keeping a flat tummy.
I need to hook up with her then.
Yes,
he's looking at my tummy, he's talking about you. Okay. All right, but we're talking about foods. Can you give us an example of the types of foods perhaps we should be eating?
In general, we should be taking certain amounts from the different food groups. There are 6 food groups. There are staples, so that would be ground provisions, rice, the starchy foods, these things. So we should have healthy selections from these. So the whole grains, whole wheat, the brown ones instead of the white, these are healthier options. So that's what we should be choosing. Food from animals, which would encompass meats and dairy products. You want to eat lean meat. Fish, you should have fish at least twice a week, because fish is a very good source of protein. Some of the fishes are high in omega-3 fatty acids, which are the good fats, part of the good fats group. So we want to do that as well. Dairy as well. Some people seem to be afraid of taking dairy, but it's not bad. If you have low-fat dairy or skimmed dairy, then that's a better option as well. And then fruits and vegetables, of course. We need to increase our intake of fruits and vegetables.
Okay, great. I actually wanted to read a question here. Someone's actually saying that they are not going to be calling because they really like what we're going on. They're asking other people don't call because they like what they're hearing. Okay, I want to ask. In fact, I'm going to read one of the questions here. I never knew I was diabetic until a month ago after I took the blood test. Right now, I'm trying to control it. After speaking with my doctor and dietitian, I think everyone should consider taking a test. Here's a question for you: if you're diabetic, will losing weight help lower your blood sugar? Doctor?
Excellent. So losing weight is found to, in 10 to 15% of cases of diabetics, actually help decrease substantially the risk of cardiovascular complications, so heart attack, heart failure, and the risk of kidney complications. So losing weight is definitely a great way to go. You actually find people who may be diagnosed with diabetes, and just by doing what the dietitian says, and I like how she says it's not just saying what to eat, but it's saying also exercise. Just by doing what the dietitian says, some people will actually move from being diabetic to not having hypoglycemia anymore. In other words, they may actually be able to control the diabetes totally on that. Now, I just wanted to make a point about the importance of exercise very quickly, because it would seem like in our culture, our gentlemen, from the time they get to 30, they retire from physical activity, you know, and then they retire from work from the time they get to about 50. But you know, if you want to stave off or avert becoming diabetic, what you actually want to do is exercise more or keep an exercise regime as you get older. You really want to make sure that exercise is part of your daily your daily regime. You know, your daily regimen. Sorry, you don't want to become that person who exercises only when there's a walk.
When you feel like it.
You know, when there's a walk or when somebody says let's go play a little football. You know, but with the huge abdomen. Exercise is one of the best ways to keep diabetes away.
Okay, let me read another one here. I really think diabetes plays a vital part in one's life, and it destroys every part of you. A lot of people today die from diabetes because many people in St. Lucia don't care about their health and lifestyle. They just live it the way they want to, and it's not supposed to be like that. Now diabetes really affects one's life financially and emotionally, because they now face the realities of buying meds every month, stressing out what they should eat and how to live their lives. All I can say is that more should be done for this disease called diabetes, and that's a very important thing to point out. How does it affect someone's financial and emotional well-being?
So it's said that diabetics spend 2 to 3 times more money on their health than the average person. Okay, so essentially diabetics have more money to spend on medication, but they also have more money to spend on self-care. If they get a wound, they need to make sure that they're taking care of it, seeing the doctor more frequently, doing more tests of their blood sugar levels. So they need to be using their glucometer and you know, checking their sugars almost every day. You know, and any diabetic will tell you that glucometers and glucose meter strips are not cheap. So definitely the cost adds up. And if there are complications involved, like we saw the image a while ago of hemodialysis, we know that hemodialysis is scarce in the public sector, and in the private sector it's very expensive. So, you know, it can really become exponential in terms of cost if you get there, and especially if you get there and then you're careless at the back of it.
Okay, well, thank you for that, Doctor. We have to go to a break, but when we come back, I want to talk just a little bit more about nutrition in terms of the sizes of the foods. And also, people say, well, if you go healthy, it's going to be more expensive anyway. But then again, the argument is prevention is better than cure. This is Dolor Factor Live on DFL and DBS. We'll be right back.